Hello! Today I'm here with another exciting product from RadioMaster. These guys have become, I think, the de facto standard in radios, certainly in the last couple of years. They've been knocking it out of the park with their radios, their quality, and now their modules they're producing for ExpressLRS and others as well. Got a new radio here, it's called the Boxer. I've just got this in, so let's get it out of the box and see what you get in it. Get a cool carry case for starters. Elsewhere in the box, there are some stickers. There is a quick start guide. It's not a full set of instructions, of course, because this runs EdgeTX, so there's a lot of stuff online about how that works and how to set things up and things. But I quite like the fact it's in a little box. I generally carry mine in a big backpack, but if that's full and you don't, want to get it messed up, then carry it in this. And inside here we've got the radio in a nicely secured strap, and we've got some stuff in here. If I look in the zip section, we've got some springs and a little Allen key. We've got a T antenna to add on, and we've got a USB-C data and charge cable. So before doing anything, of course, install your antenna. There's actually a little stick here that says don't power this on without installing the antenna, because you will ruin it. Without the antenna, basically something will burn out, because the antenna is where all that heat and radiation goes. Now, I'm looking at this, and I thought they'd covered everything. In terms of RadioMaster radios, there was the TX16. I don't have one, but it's a big radio. It reminds me sort of the Tyrannus, bigger than this. Then they had the Zorro, a sort of game console style radio. I like that sort of shape. Then the TX12, great for the smaller hands. You see it's smaller than that one, and I've got the new Ranger module in that one. So this is a form factor I kind of forgot about. I said forgot about because it's not entirely unfamiliar. When I looked at it, I thought, I've seen this somewhere before, or something similar. And it's this. This is the TBS Mambo. This is the new Boxer. And the size is comparable. It's not exact. There's a lot of different features on this, but yeah, it's similar. And I don't know how best to describe this really. It's not as big as the sort of the TX16. It's bigger than the TX12, and it's obviously different than a game style controller. Fairly comfy to hold in your hand. Hall effect sensor gimbals there. It's got quite a different concept for a holding strap. It's a strap instead of a solid thing. You've got a full-size JR style module in the back there. Now this one I've got is the ExpressLRS version. This is also available with a 4-in-1 or CC2500 chip. Now one interesting thing I think about this as an internal ExpressLRS module is often people are like, oh well, this has only got, in terms of the internal one here and this one, I think their internal modules went up to about 350 milliwatts, and although that is more, I believe, than you'll ever need, some people are like, well, maybe I'll just get the module because I want to run up to 1 watt. This is the first internal module I've seen that will run at 1 watt. It's got its own special cooling system. It runs at 1 watt. It still will run at 1000 Hertz refresh rate, which is crazy fast, crazy powerful. You won't need it, but it's there if you want to. And of course you can put the power on dynamic so it only ups the power if it needs to up the power. Feels pretty nice in the hands. Switch wise, I'll go into close up and talk about it some more, but it's got now almost standard a single on off switch there. It's got the momentary there. You've got 3 ways in the middle, 2 ways there. These pots are really nice. And what it's got, and I didn't have the TX16, so I'm quite excited by this, got this 6-button thing here. I think this acts the same as like a rotary switch with like 6 positions on it. So I think this is associated with one channel. I don't know, you have to check it out. Got a nice roller and the various buttons. I'd still like to see these buttons coloured in so I can read it without like going like that. Now, one interesting thing about this also is the amount of battery it can store. It's got a much more traditional sort of big battery case, and if you look at the back of that, there is a huge amount of space there. You've got the SD card there, that's included. Also included in the pack is this 18650 holder, so 2 18650s, pop it in the back, plug it in, and you are go. Now I was lucky enough to get a 6200 2S battery, which is an option they sell separately. It comes in this box here, and it looks like that, which is pretty much the perfect size to go in there, as you might expect, because that's how they made it. That will run for up to 20 hours, they're saying. So if you really want to go for a long flying day, or you're going to run it at very high power. You may have seen in the past when I was using this one and put that up to 1 watt, the energy on lower spec batteries will drain pretty quickly. So if you've got a big old battery like this, 6200 milliamp hours, that is going to last you, and that's not going to sag so much. So I'll be using it with this one. It doesn't come standard, it is extra. Something that should come standard, but we were too early to get as review packs, is the gimbal protector, which would obviously go over the gimbals. It looks like this. They didn't have it quite ready. By the time they actually ship this, it will be ready for you. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's go into close up. Let's plug this thing in, turn on, see how these work, see how the rest of it works, and see what we have to do. Okay, so here's a bit more of a close up of the radio, so let's walk you through it in a bit more detail. As said, you've got the, I forgot what you call this. This is a button that presses in and presses out, which probably has a name, as opposed to this momentary switch, which just does that. In the top here, you have got the old-fashioned trainer port, the USB for connecting to your computer for Sims or for mass storage. Got some headphones there. Obviously that's where you can put your antenna. Switch is labelled here, SASB, S1, etc. As said, on the outside you've got 2 position switches. On the inside, 3 position switches. You've got 2 pots here, which have a lovely smooth feel and a nice boom. You will stop directly in centre there. Extra 4 switches for trims. Hall effect gimbals, as mentioned before, feel very nice. Then you've got all your buttons for moving around the menus and stuff. You've got this rotary switch here. You've got this 6 position thing, which I still want to check out in more detail. Underneath, that is the charge port. Charging wise, you can charge both an 18650 and a 2S in here, and I particularly like the fact that they've put this bit of foam on the back so it doesn't rattle about when you've got your batteries in there, which is good, nice and solid. Your new strap, which I kind of like, because sometimes you want to put it down flat and it won't do that if you've got the other type. And of course, depending what model you have, you might want to put something in there. As I said, this comes as ExpressLRS. There is a full 4-in-1 module, and then there's just the one with the CC2500 model, which well mostly does FreeSky type receivers as well as a few other things. Anyway, let's switch this guy on, see what happens. I try and move it far away from the camera because it tends to emit stuff. So yeah, we are running EdgeTX, it comes preloaded. All the buttons pretty much the same as you'd expect normally. If I go into sys, this is a bit weird because apart from ExpressLRS, which we'll have a quick look at, this is what we've got running at the moment. The interesting things about here is right now we are in a 3.xx maintenance. I don't think the official firmware is there yet. I had a check on the ExpressLRS configurator, it's not in there. I expect that to be coming out by the time this gets released. You've got the normal stuff like the backpack, the BLE joystick, the Wi-Fi connectivity. You've got your power there. That, as mentioned, goes all the way up to 1000, which will start a little fan going in the back because the fan threshold is 250 milliwatts. I'm going to turn that down to 100. And as mentioned, we can put this thing all the way up to 1000 Hertz if we want to. Yeah, a little weird thing, which I've never seen before on these radios, is also in here. There's a bunch of games, which is the weirdest thing ever. I'm trying to think of a worse platform to play a game on. This is Breakout, and it's just, I can't really see in the camera what's going on. But yeah, I mean, that's different and new. Not particularly useful for me, but it exists. Anyway, I want to find out what these buttons do. So probably the best way of doing this, if we go to the model page, it's got a couple of little existing models which aren't really do much. If I create a model here, and let's page along, and what's that got? So if we put our internal RF on, and then we go to our mixes, and quite a good way of, I think, of finding out what a button is to press it. For example, if I was, once it's flashing, if I was to press this, it would change to SA, over there SB. This thing here would be S1. So if I go ahead and press this, that is S3. All those buttons are S3. So I'm guessing that will be a little bit along. And again, we can check that out. If I go and return, now that match is there, and we page to here, and I added that as, so at the moment I'm minus 100. Oh yeah, you can see the way it works. I'll show you that in Betaflight once I do some stuff with it. There's not an awful lot to say about this. It feels very solid in the hands. It's got some nice weight behind it. It's a little bit bigger than the previous TX12 I looked at before, a little bit smaller than something like the TX16, which is generally very, very big. I'm trying to think if people that pinch would be okay with those. It's a little bit different. I think it takes a little bit getting used to just to find where those are going to be. And these sort of things you might use if you're on fixed wing, where you can sort of happily take one hand off, fly along, and maybe pan and tilt with that sort of thing. But yeah, the proof would be in the pudding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and set this up with a few models, so I'm ready to take some stuff out, test it out, fly it and things like that, and just have a go with it. Hopefully I've got something I can fly indoors, because it's absolutely freezing outside at the moment. But yeah, we'll also have a look at this in a model on Betaflight to see how that looks and see how you can set up your modes with it. And we'll do a bit of sim stuff on here, make sure that's okay. We'll check out that the Bluetooth module can do the sim stuff as well, make sure that's working, and yeah, let's give it a test. Now, as I mentioned, at the time I'm putting this video together, there is no official ExpressLRS firmware release for this. As you see, it says FreeXX maintenance. It's clearly one that RadioMaster put together just for the pre-release of this radio. Hopefully by the time this does get released, it'll be in there in the configurator. However, in the meantime, although I couldn't, reflash the firmware or anything, what I could do in version 3 is just put it in Wi-Fi mode, which I did. It comes up on my computer here, and then what I did is I just put in my normal binding phrase, which gets turned into these numbers, and that means I can connect to any of my models without having to bind or think about it. I just need to make sure that I've got an applicable model set up in the radio, and I just should be able to go ahead and use them. And that is the critical thing I really like about ExpressLRS, aside from the fact it's low latency, which matters less to me because I'm old and my reactions aren't so good. It's very high range, which is really handy because I don't really have to think about it going out of range. But it's that ease of use I really like. I don't have to ever think about having to try and hold the power in whilst pressing down a button and stuff like that. Upgrading the firmware is as easy as connecting to Wi-Fi and letting it do its thing. It's all nice and easy from a usability point of view. Sim-wise, all looks good. At the moment, I'm connected in via the USB-C, and it comes up, at least in my sim, I'm sure in other ones as well, as the RadioMaster Boxer. I didn't need to do any calibration on the sticks, and yeah, all is good. Nice reactions, not a problem. There's a tree. Just going to check it in Bluetooth mode as well, see how that works. Yep, so we've got it running in, you probably can't see that, BLE joystick mode, and that works okay. The only pain I noticed in setting up is you have to, this is only a problem if you've got a lot of ELRS radios, is that each radio is unique because it has its own Bluetooth adapter, which means you end up with a load of possible connected ExpressLRS joysticks. So I had to just say, yes, connect this one. It comes up as unknown in my one because it doesn't know what it is. But again, it's absolutely fine. I've never noticed any sort of lag or anything from Bluetooth using this because most console type joysticks are also Bluetooth, so it's absolutely not a problem. So yeah, if you don't want to go wireless, use the Bluetooth module in the ExpressLRS module. I've crashed under the water. As mentioned, since we're talking USB ports, if you want to charge, just plug in your USB, the light will come on. When the light goes out, it means it's done. Well, it's a couple of days later, and guess what just showed up today? The gimbal protector, and I'm really glad I've got one in person because I didn't appreciate quite what a good job it did. One of the things a lot of my friends have encountered is breaking switches, putting it in bags. This covers the switches. It's interesting, this. I don't quite know what it's made of. Maybe some sort of TPU, maybe something else. There's flex in it, but some bits are like really hard. Like these bits around there, they're much thicker walls. So it's flexible, but other bits aren't going to move, so it's going to protect things really nicely. Maybe something you want to put in if you're just carrying it in a backpack and take that antenna off so nothing can break off. If you're wondering if you want to keep the antenna on, that fits quite happily in its own bag, like that. Anyway, what's happening? It's still absolutely freezing outside. It's like -6 Celsius and it's icy. And we're going away skiing on holiday later this week with the family. Hooray for me. But it means all my boots and most of my wet weather gear is packed away, and I don't want to go to the field because it's really cold. So maybe time to do a bit of whooping. This has, and what I wanted to talk about, because sure, I could go out and I could fly this again with a quad and we'd do a kilometre. And the same sort of thing will happen. It will have a really good signal, just like I did with the TX12, just like I did with the Ranger module, just like I do with most things. And I run them at 100 milliwatts and it's absolutely fine. You can fly it as far as you like. So I thought rather than do the same old thing, I'd talk about why I like ExpressLRS. And it's all about being able to match any radio with any receiver and not having to bind. So this is a Beta FPV something or other. It has an SPI ExpressLRS sort of built-in receiver, and although to get it working on version 3 for ExpressLRS I had to flash this to a 4.4 Betaflight nightly. We'll start this because I haven't flown this for ages and I want to get a proper feel of the radio, so let's see how it goes. Okay, let's try this thing out. It's been a while. This doesn't necessarily fly very well indoors. It's more of a sort of racing style one. Let's just make sure I've got a picture here. Yeah, although it seems to have lost some of my OSD during the firmware upgrade. Never mind. Let's try flying this. I'll keep on recording so I can show you guys. Apologies if this is bad. This is, as I said, a bit rusty. Are we recording? Yeah. Bit rusty as far as whoops go, and just upgrading the firmware seems to have made my craft name just a bit. Right, in angle, armed. I'll take you on the flight with me. I'll face this way so I can see what's happening. Okay. Oh, this is a bit jittery. There's the ski tube. We'll be using that later, and that's a set of steps to get all the stuff out of the loft, all the ski gear. Go downstairs. Whoa. Oh, oh. Well, that's a quick way of going down the stairs. There we go. I think I may be upside down. Let's see. There you go. That's better. Oh man, I'm so out of practice on this. So how are we doing? I'm trying to fly it slowly. This thing really wants to go quickly, which doesn't quite fit in with this house and the amount of stuff currently in the house. There's Roshi the dog. Ooh, she says, I haven't seen a quad for a while. What's that? Into the lounge. Whoop, Christmassy feel. There's the tree. Wow, these batteries are well knackered. Sorry, Rosh. Rosh is not happy with this intruder. But what's our RSSI? Well, link quality is around 100 as you'd expect. Looks like the last time I used this I wasn't even using the dBm value, but I'm flying this on a 100 milliwatts, so I'm expecting to go as far as I want to. This is the real difference on SPI receivers. SPI receivers for ExpressLRS last as far as you're like, oh, I've killed this battery. Let's see if I can make it back upstairs. Will it make it before the battery completely dies? 3.4, dropping fast. That's a desk landing here. This was a good start. Okay, that worked. Felt okay. Yes, I've just turned it off, don't worry about it. Felt okay in the hands, no particular problems. I'm not using a lot of switches there though, so let's see if we can work something else with it. Welcome to my garage. This is not the main reason there. I've just hooked up this. Do you remember this little thing? It's an FPV car with an ExpressLRS PDM receiver in it. Let's give it a go, shall we? Just a bit of urban stuff around the street. So this video's not quite what I wanted it to be. You know it says a little picture of me in the bottom right corner, which may look like a still image. The idea was that I'd film myself doing a little bit of commentary, because after all, I'm testing out the radio to see how it all works and stuff. But this is the first time I've driven the little FPV car around the streets, and for some reason I'm really paranoid about losing it, like someone's going to rush out of their house, pick it up and run off with it, which seems really unlikely. And this area, I mean, I've left my garage door open overnight and someone rang the bell to, you know, tell me the garage door's open rather than go and take stuff. So it's not like we're in like a crime-ridden area. It's really quite friendly and happy around here. It's something I wanted to do a little bit more of because I think it's good fun. As far as the radio goes, signal was absolutely fine. What I hadn't done is even charge this battery. It was on storage, so you can see it dropping quite rapidly. But I'm quite pleased with the sort of range we're getting in this urban environment. I mean, I'm standing in the garage to keep warm, and this is going, you know, through various concrete blocks, and there's bits of garden wall and stuff in the way. Signal holds up a lot better than the video. Video's getting a little bit sketchy here and there. I'll have to sort of rethink the right areas to do it, but the people that walked past it didn't even give it a second look, quite interestingly. They just thought, yeah, whatever, little robot cars going by. I set this up, by the way, with the traditional mode 2 with your stick for the steering and the right aileron elevator stick for throttle, and that's because it springs back to centre, and then reverse is obviously backwards, and that will spring back to sort of a neutral spot. Anyway, that was the car. So the other thing I've going to hook this radio up to, and I think this has got a old Happy model receiver in, is this wing. And if we look around, it does stuff. And I thought this wing is a good example where we might use those little 6-channel buttons down the bottom. Let me just take the wings off so I can connect this a bit easier to iNav, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is the wing connected to iNav without the wings on. This is the Flybot Flux wing, and the idea is when you crash, the wings come off. And I want to try and fly it, having rebuilt it, to maybe use it for wing racing, because it's nice and fast. In a case of an accident, the wings fly off, and it is a bit of a pain to launch. And when I went out last week and tried to launch this, first flight, through it, everything looked good, and then I'd found out the MMCX adapter had fallen out, so I lost the VTX completely. No picture, had to land it line of sight after a very scary RTH. And then the next couple of launches, threw it, dunked it in the ground. Now, people have said to me, you know what, you're not committing to auto launch properly, so next time it'd be the case of grabbing both wings and throwing over my head, no radio in sight. Anyway, the reason I'm here is, if we look on the screen in iNav, what I've gone ahead and done is mess around with the modes a little bit. So you can see my mode screen here, and like, you know, ARM is there, and my flight modes, Horizon and Acro there. So what I've done here, I've put in a couple of things. So this does nothing, because what you want here is modifiers. I didn't want to like override if I'm flying in Horizon. So if I press this button, it goes to nav alt hold. This button is nav heading hold, and that one is nav pos hold. I don't even know if I need like mission planner and stuff to do that. And then over on these buttons, I've got, what have I got? That one is auto level and auto tune. I've still got this one I'm not sure what I'm doing with yet, but I thought that is a good way of using those buttons, because we're putting them on non-critical things. And the reason I say that is because if you've got your goggles on, it's very easy to figure out where your switches are. It's not quite necessarily so easy to do this. It's like you have to sort of count them. So if I accidentally put it in like nav alt hold instead of heading hold, hopefully something comes up in the OSD. I have to say I've never used these modes, and it's easy to correct it, and you know, it's not like, oh, I've accidentally disarmed it and it's crashing out the sky. So that is one I want to try and set up for next time, using this, and obviously it's easy to get a little bit more range in wings because wings stay up longer as well, and that's a way of testing out what I might be doing with this, and doing stuff like maybe using the dynamic power, which I really haven't messed with. I generally stick it on 100 milliwatts and it goes as far as I need it to, but it'd be nice to change it so, you know, if I didn't need to use that much power it wouldn't, and if I did need to use more power, I can't expect why, but maybe something, we're in a bad RF area, we've gone in front of something or behind something, then maybe we need to up that. So that'd be a nice test for next time. So there you go, that is the RadioMaster Boxer. Not quite my normal review because I didn't go out and fly in the freezing cold, but I will be. However, I don't just want to do the same thing again. As I said, it's no good taking a quad and flying it a kilometre and coming back because I know that's going to work and the signal's going to be good. So I'm going to think of some other ways to fly it and different ways to use that module, which might be slightly different than I've done before. But I had a fly and I did a few more batteries of the Whoop around the house, and that felt pretty good. Got no problems, sits nicely in hand. The only thing I didn't do is a lot of flying where I have to keep messing with modes and stuff. So I'm not quite sure how that'd be. It feels okay, it feels different. Normally, in a lot of radios you have switches up here, so you have to just rethink about where your switches are. And as I said, you'd only really use these in the case where you could take one hand off and do some stuff, if like a panel tilt, something like that. But I really like this as the 6-way switch as well. If you've got something like Ardu Pilot, which I think only allows one channel for mode switches, you either have to come up with a complex way of saying that down and then that 3 equals 1, and you sort of end up with this weird binary system, or you have something a bit nicer where you can just press 1 of 6 buttons, so that's quite nice. Anyway, thanks very much for RadioMaster for shipping this to me for review. It was interesting to look at, and I'll come back and I'll fly some stuff, especially this. I'm desperate to get some more wings in the air. I just want more flight time so I can go further and explore a bit more, and I think I've been neglecting my wings a bit, so I'm going to get back more wings, but more quads as well. We've got stuff building all the time. Anyway, if you're interested in this, you can of course check it out at RadioMaster. I'll have some links down below where you can do that. In the meantime, I hope that's been helpful. I will see you after Christmas because I'm off skiing on holiday. Fingers crossed, no broken legs. I will catch you next time. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.